Welcome back to InDesign CC 2020 Classroom in a Book for Chapter 4, Working with Objects. This is Part 2. In the last one, we went through and worked on getting our featured blossoms put together. We've worked with putting some layers together. And now we're going to go ahead and play with this Botanical Gardens Worldwide element. So let's go back in here. If we, with our selection tool, go to our Botanical Gardens Worldwide, you're going to see we've got this outport that says we do have some overset text. First thing I want to do is fix that. So with my selection tool, I'm going to actually double click here on this bottom middle, and it's going to make that frame fit to what I've got, but it's not very pretty. So we can go ahead and reshape that text frame with our direct selection tool. So what I'm going to do is grab my direct selection tool, and the way I found this easiest is to kind of go around the point that I want to mess with as far as my direct selection works, and then point on it and hold it till it turns black. And then you'll be able to pull it up. So it might take you a few tries to get that to work, but it's still a little bit ugly. So we want to go ahead and change it a little bit more. We're going to go down here to our convert direction. If you can't find it, it's probably under your pen tool. I'm going to go ahead and click on that point that I made, and it's going to give me a couple of different pull arrows that create those Bezier curves that we see in Illustrator. And I still have a few problems. I'm losing part of my text still, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that around and change it. Pull this one around and change it. Oh, let's grab it again. Go this way with it. Until A, you've got all the text, and B, you've got, oh, let's go down here even more. There we go. A shape that you're happy with. So what we're trying to learn there is that there are ways to play with different elements of the curves. Totally up to you as to how you're going to decide you like it, and it will take a few tries to get that one to work. All right, let's do Control S and save what you've got so far. And let's make sure we do an edit and deselect all, make sure we don't have anything going. Next thing we're going to do is play with the text over in these columns over here. So right now this is a little bit ugly. Got a little bit of the school report to it. So let's go ahead and make this into some columns. Let's go and make sure we've got that rows selection with our selection tool. Let's do a right click and do a text frame options. Make sure your preview is turned on so you can watch what's happening. In columns, I want you to go ahead and bump that up to 3 columns. And I want you to change your gutter to 0.125. And we're going to say OK. So instead of drawing 3 separate columns trying to make them even, it's a lot easier to take that text box and to divide it into some smaller bits. So next thing we're going to do is grab our type tool and come here right before foxglove. And we're going to break that column so it wraps up onto the next page. So let's go ahead and go to our type. We want to insert break character. We want to have a column break. So now it works much better. And we want to go ahead and throw one in right before crocus. So type, insert break character, and column. So now we've got those worked back into 3 much nicer looking elements, or for some reason my screen's taking a while to update. Crocus is not actually still there. There we go. So I'm going to do a Control S and save. And if we look right down here in the bottom, we can see that we added those column breaks right here because I have my show hidden characters on. We can hide those by going type and hide hidden characters. So now we're not seeing all those different elements. And let's go into our layers panel and let's go to our graphics and unlock graphics because we're going to work on graphics next. And let's go ahead and lock text for now. So let's do our view spread in Windows. You can do a Control-Alt-0 or you can go up to the view and do it that way. So the next thing we're going to work with is playing with this urban garden oasis because it's a little bit ugly right now. We really want it to do this. So there's a couple of different ways to make the software do it for you. So with our selection tool, we're going to select this text frame. Next thing we're going to do is go to Object and come down here to text frame options. So same thing we did with the right click before, but now we're going to do the different way to do it. Make sure our preview is turned on. we're going to play with our inset spacing. So think of your inset spacing as bubble wrap on the inside as padding of your box. So let's make sure this is disabled. So we're doing each one individually. So you should have a broken one. The left value should be 2 inches. And you can go tab to go to the next one. And your right should be 0.625 and tab. And you can kind of see how it moved it over. And for our vertical justification, we want to go ahead and tell it to be in the center. So see, there's a lot of different ways to control how the text is laying without having to create a lot of extra elements. And then we want to say, okay, now we're going to play with it just a little bit more. I'm going to collapse that type or that panel. Let's go here to type and come in right before spring. And we're going to go ahead and insert a special character. So type, insert special character. We want other. We want a right tab indent, which means automatically push it to the edge of the right tab wherever the right tab is. So it's a lot easier than trying to do space, 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 or tab over. Just use that right tab indent and you'll get a much cleaner result each time. So let's go edit, deselect all, and do selection tool and go to save. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and modify and play with some graphics frames. So let's go ahead and zoom in, or you can grab your zoom tool and kind of zoom. We're going to come in right here above Urban Oasis Garden, and we're going to throw a logo in there. So let's go ahead and do a file and place, charge selection, file and place. And we want to go into the one that says Urban Oasis logo.ai. So if they're by name, I'm going to scroll down. I'm in lesson 3. That would be a problem. Let's look at lesson 4. All right, Urban Oasis logo.ai, open. All right, so you're going to see we're going to get that loaded cursor. So I have a couple of different options. I can just place it. If I just click, it's going to come in exactly the size that it is. I'm going to do an undo. Or I can go ahead and draw the box that I want it to fit in and place it that way. So you do have a couple of different options. Now it may or may not fit the way you want it to, and you're going to notice it's coming in kind of jagged. You're wondering what's going on. Make sure you go up to View, Display Performance, and do High Quality Display, and that will go ahead and clean up those edges for you. So if you're having fitting problems, let's go ahead and look at our fitting options up here. If you're on a laptop, you may or may not see these. This can help you to choose how it's going to fill that frame, especially if it's too big. So maybe my frame was this big and I cut some off. So I would have the option to either fit the frame to the content, I can fill it, or I want to do it proportionally. So you definitely make sure you're paying attention to keeping those proportions when you are creating those different elements. So let's go ahead and pull that down. Kind of over this Urban Oasis Garden logo area. All right, and we're going to add one more. So we're going to go ahead and go to the bottom of page 4, where we've got kind of this address label. So let's go ahead and do a file and place again. Let's go ahead and grab that Urban Oasis logo, say open. And for now, we're just going to stick it right in here. And yes, it's upside down. We're going to play with that later. Let's do our edit, deselect all, and a Control S to save. All right, so the next one we're going to do is placing multiple items in a grid up here at the top. So actually, I think I'm going to actually start that as the beginning of the next video. So I will see you for part 3.